Good morning, boys and girls. Today's lesson on who is God is always with us. Today's story is about two countries that kept fighting, Israel and Aram. Israel was full of God's chosen people, including a prophet whose name was Elisha. Last week we had a story about Elijah. A prophet is someone who God gives messages to so he can tell other people. Well, the king of Aram made top secret military plans, but God told Elisha what the plans were. So Elisha spread the message to his king, and the Israelite army would be able to avoid getting hurt in battle. Well, in a battle, you get a big advantage if you can sneak up on your enemy. But the army from Aram couldn't do any sneaking because God always told their plans to Elisha. Because God is always with us, he always knew what the army of Aram was planning. So when the king of Aram found out about Elisha, he was pretty mad. Meanwhile, Elisha and his servant were in a city called Dothan. Imagine that wherever you're sitting or standing is Dothan. I'm going to read a couple verses from this story. 2 Kings 6, verses 14 and 15. Then he sent horses and chariots and a strong force there. They went by night and surrounded the city. When the servant of the man of God got up and went out early the next morning, an army with horses and chariots had surrounded the city. "Oh, my Lord, what shall we do?" the servant asked. So there they were, surrounded. Elisha's servant was afraid, but Elisha knew God is always with us. Next verse. "Don't be afraid," the prophet answered. "Those who are with us are more than those who are with them." While Elisha was talking about God's army being with them, that means an army of angels in fiery chariots with fiery horses. Glance around the room. Do you see anything like that? Elisha's servant didn't see God's army like Elisha did, so Elisha prayed. Next verse. And Elisha prayed, "O Lord, open his eyes so he may see." And then the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked and saw the hills full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. I wonder if we could find God's army if we looked a little closer. Fire is red, orange, and yellow. So look around and see if you can find some things in the room you're in that are those colors. I'll give you a little bit of time to take a glance around your room. Did you find some? Wow, this whole time we've been surrounded by an angel army and we didn't even know it. God is always with us. Like Elisha's servant, we don't always see that God is around us, but he is. And after that, Elisha prayed another prayer. Here's the next verse. As the enemy came down towards him, Elisha prayed to the Lord, "Strike these people with blindness." So he struck them with blindness as Elisha had asked. Then Elisha tricked them into going to a different place surrounded by the Israelite army. But instead of fighting, Israel gave them a meal and sent them home. And after that, the two countries didn't fight anymore. Wow. Maybe you've never been surrounded by an angry-looking army, but there are times and places we really need to remember that God is always with us. I attached two papers to the email today if you want to do those. The first one is a different story from the Bible about Elisha. It's Elisha and the iron axe head. And you have to figure out which letter of the alphabet is missing from each line. Write that letter down and it will be your secret answer. The other one is a coloring paper of what it looked like in the sky around Elisha and his servant that day. This is probably somebody's idea of maybe what it looked like. So those are the two papers. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next Sunday, boys and girls.